Hi and welcome back to another video of JPlay. I am Marcus and today I'm walking you through a couple of rounds of Agent Who, the latest game by Unique Board Games, and this has some funny story to it, kind of at least, because this is one of the few games I didn't actually buy in Essen. No, this was being given to me, because while I was doing my little recording of the press room, the novelty show in Essen, the designer Itzik approached me and said, "Hey, you're that guy from that YouTube channel, right?" I said, "I suppose I am." And then, yeah, he was basically asking me if I would be willing to do any kind of content for their upcoming game, obviously Agent Who, which should be live on Kickstarter, I believe. So when you're watching this video, the campaign should be also live, so you can directly check it out. And yes, of course, you will find a link to the campaign in the description of this video. In Agent Who, we are representing agents with secret identities, and our goal is to uncover either the identities of other agents and or uncover different series of cards. In order to win this game, you have to come up with, I think, two, let's call it victory points. One victory point could be by uncovering the secret identity of another player, and the other victory point could come from a series of cards that we are playing, or a combination of, or you can do both things twice. But as soon as you have that, it's called again second victory point, you have won that game. In order to explain the game, I think we will start by looking at some of the components. So we have a starting player card here, we have a ton of these player overview cards, we have the spying card, which is a one-time thing which you can use once per game to give you very, very powerful stuff. We have our little cheat sheets here. This will help me later on determining which identities my fellow players have, pretty much by elimination. Then we have one of the most important thing is our agent card. So this is telling me which agent number I am. This is a deck of 20 cards ranging from 1 to 20, all with different combinations of these symbols. And again, one of the goals in this game is to uncover the identities of the other player, typically by elimination here. Of course, this also comes with more than enough pens. Each player starts the game with 3 of those intel cards. They range from 1 to 2 symbols on them, compared to the agent cards, which always have 3 symbols. Later on, I will be able to get agent cards into my hand, and then they also serve much like a normal intel card. You always can show that this is an agent card because they have a red back. This has a blue back. Obviously, this card here is completely hidden from the other players. I will keep this hidden unless I am uncovered. At that point in time, I more or less reveal it, and then it doesn't really have any more purpose other than really giving a victory point to the player who uncovered me. Then we have the main area of the table, which consists of the intel stockpile. We have the safe box cards. So these are basically 3 more of these agent cards. And one use for this spying card here would be to allow you to peek under these 3 cards. And again, by the power of elimination, they will show 3 different numbers. You can then cross them out on your cheat sheet. Much like Cluedo to some extent here, of course. This works the same way, but then this spying card would be gone. After you have dealt 1 agent card to each of the player as part of setup, you will set aside these 3 safe cards. And then you take the rest of the blue and red cards, shuffle them together into the intel stockpile. And because the stockpile now also has agent cards in them, this tells you that neither the 8 nor the 5 nor the 6 can be part of any player's secret identity, because again, power of elimination, similar to a game like Cluedo, which also means we can already cross those out on our cheat sheets. But of course, the other players can do the same. And again, I have 1 for the white player, I have 1 for the red player has 1 for me as the blue player, and 1 for the white player, and so on. You get the idea. So we are crossing out the 5 on both of those. We are also crossing out the 6 again on both of those. They can't be in the hand. And then there was the 8 as well. And in theory, if I want to make my life easier, I could also already cross out the 19, because that's my secret identity card here. And then I think we can start playing the game. I will be the starting player. I will play openly. I will, I think, only walk you through one round or so, maybe a second round or so, just to give you an idea of what this game has to offer. But by then you already have more or less understood what this game is all about. So during your turn, you can start with an optional uncover action. That means you can either uncover an agent code or you can uncover vital intel. Uncover an agent code really simply says you are somewhat sure that, for example, red player is, I don't know, agent number 7. You call it out, hey, red, you are 7. They have to answer honestly. If they are number 7, then you were lucky or you really played well. In this case, you already collected their victory point. This would also mean you would get their secret identity card. They would be revealed, of course. You put it in front of you just to show everyone that you have collected one victory point. They're not out of the game. It's simply that they can no longer be interrogated, but they might as well still win the game. So not uncommon at all, by the way. But of course, if you are wrong, so if you just go for a Hail Mary at the very start of the game, you will immediately end your turn. You will not do an inquiry action. You will not collect any more cards. That's basically it. So you have to be certain. And that's why you also have a second optional thing, and that's playing vital intel, which allows you to play 3 cards in front of you, but you have to follow certain rules to that. But if you are successful playing those cards in the right order with the right symbols, this would also give you the 1 victory point you need for the 2 to come. But that's something that you're not doing quite often during that game, but I'm relatively certain I will be able to show it to you a little bit later how that works. I can't do neither right now, or of course I could go for an uncover agent code and just guess for the laugh of it, but I'm not going to. I have 3 cards in my hand in theory, but I don't have the right 3 cards in front of me, so I will basically forfeit my uncover action. Again, that's a totally optional thing, and here it also says I could always go for a spying free action, but I can only do that once per game. So I'm not doing any of those, which leads me to the, I think, meat of the game to some extent. I will go for an inquiry action. This is how I gather, not really gather, but I get some intel of my fellow players. The way how this works is I have to target any one of my opposing players. So this could be either red or white. I'm demonstrating a 3-player game, but there is a 2-player variant in this game, which I'm not covering here today. But in this case, at the start of the game, it doesn't really matter too much. So I will simply target the red player. So I will trigger my inquiry action and interrogation. And now I have to decide if I want to do a public or a private investigation, that is. A public investigation costs me 1 less card, but the answer I'm getting is a public answer as well. So everyone else will also get something out of this. The private costs me 2 cards. It's a little bit unclearer for me, but at least the answer I'm getting is exclusive for me. Because I want to hold on to both of these cards, again, coming back to the uncover action, and I'm relatively certain I should be able to demonstrate this to you. And I didn't stage this in any way, by the way. I think I will go for a public inquiry, which means I'm going to play this card. I will play it in front of me or in front of the player, doesn't really matter. So it shows a symbol. Everyone sees that card on the table, and then I'm asking, is that symbol, or one of those symbols, in this case it's only 1 symbol, either on your row A, on your row B, on your row C, on your secret identity card. So we have an A, we have a B, and we have a C. I have to be specific, so I can't simply ask, hey, do you have that symbol on the card? No, that's not how it works. You really have to ask, is that symbol here, for example, on your row C? So in this case, the red player will check out their card. Guess what? In fact, it was on C. So he has to answer honestly, yes, I have that symbol on row C. This also means now, in theory, and of course also practically, that we can, for the red player, pretty much strike out all the columns, all the agent numbers, which doesn't have this Petri dish in row C, which is quite a lot, which is one of the reasons why a player could decide to remain silent. So they don't have to answer. They can't lie, but they could now tell the blue players or ourselves, say, I don't want to answer that. That is fine, they can do that. I still have played my card, so in theory I'm losing my card. I think the player might still be giving some information away, because why do they say they want to remain silent? Do they have that? Of course, they could play the deception game and then say, oh, I don't have it there, but I still don't want to answer it, for example. Still, there is a penalty for that specific player because they decided to remain silent. They have to give me a card instead. And I think in this case, they say that is fine, I will give you this card. So we are getting this card into our hands. So we lost a card, we gained another card. So ultimately, we haven't really lost anything. In theory, we could think about if we want to believe them or not, or if we say, yeah, they for sure they have that symbol in the row and we are playing that game. But of course, if the deception game works for the red player, we really might be losing a hell of a lot of time throughout the game. So I think this is really the fun part in this game, because you can play these kind of mind games. So this was our inquiry action, and then, successful or not in the inquiry action, the last step during your turn is to gather intel, which allows you to draw 2 cards from the display here. I definitely want this card. I had this in my sight for quite a while, since the start of the game. It was really lucky that it's out there. And then I could decide to go for another one here, for 3, or I could go for these symbols. Having these cards here, I think you have seen that, is relatively, let's say, clear. You get a very clear answer usually. If you would have played this card here instead, the answer would haven't been so clear. I would still be asking, hey, listen, do you have one of these symbols on row A, B, or C, for example? But then I'm not specifically sure which one of those it is. So I think in this case, I will go for this symbol. It might also help me in other ways. And then finally, we are going to reveal 2 more cards. Here's another intel cards. Those intel cards are blue. And here we see, okay, that is another agent card. Okay. We know for a fact that Agent 18 is also not part of the game, so we can cross those out accordingly as well. And again, the other players will do the same, and it goes without saying that these cheat sheets are definitely kept hidden from the other player. But this concludes our turn. Over to the red player. They have the same decisions. They could go for an uncover action. They can't uncover vital intel, because at least you need 3 cards in order to do so. Of course, they could in fact now play their spying card, and maybe there is the perfect card for them out there, but I think it's not the case. I could have used it as well, but because I was the starting player, there was no real reason to go for that. And they're also not going for a Hail Mary in respect to uncover another agent. So they will directly jump into their inquiry action. And I think just in order to show you, they're going for a private inquiry, which means they have to play 2 of their cards in front of another player. In this case, again, it doesn't really matter, but I think they want to pay us back because we also have a hell of a lot of cards. So they will play both of these cards now in front of us. And now for the private thing, they will still ask the same thing. They will ask us, hey, is any one of those symbols that I'm showing you here on your row A, B, or C, for example? So in this case, they could say, is one of those in our row A? The way how this now works is, normally in a public, I would simply say yes or no. Everyone would learn about that. In this case, because it's a private one, it cost them dearly. They had to spend 2 cards for that. I will have to take these cards now basically into my hand, and we'll have to make sense out of this. So they will ask me for row A, for example. So they have given me these 2 cards. And now I see that, yes, one of these is in fact on row A. I could now also decide to remain silent if I want. So I think in this case, they would really get a lot of information out of this, but still they wouldn't be sure what either of those is. But because it's now a private inquiry, we would still need to give 1 card to the other player, to the red player in this case, but we would also have to discard another card. And that's, I think, losing 2 cards at this point in time, because I am going to play 3 cards during my next round, is maybe not something I want to do. So the way how this works now is, I will have to basically use one of the cards, and I have to be honest. Either I remain silent or I have to be honest. I can't lie at this point in time. Otherwise, I mean, it would feel like cheating, right? So what I need to do now is I would have to put one card on top of it face down anyway. And this simply helps to somewhat, yeah, make the area a little bit more cloudy. Let's put it like this. Let's hide our intent. And then the bottom card I put on this needs to be honest. In this case, this is the honest card, which says, yes, I have this on row A, but the other players do not know what I did there. So the white player in this case. So what I would be doing now, I would put this now to the bottom of the deck, and because it's true, I have to do that face down as well. I would hand over the stack as much as possible, as concealed as possible, to the red player. They would look at it and they would now say, okay, this card is on the bottom, so this has to be the truth card. And if this card is face down, I know that this is basically a yes. So they would look at it, they see, oh, indeed, are you? So they gathered some information. Then they would shuffle these and then they would discard those cards. So only they would know what it is. If that wouldn't have been the case, or if he would have asked me, are either of those in row B, for example, in this case, I could say, no, that's not the case. I would then put this card face up underneath the other one. So this is now the no. The other players would still see that, but in this case, they would know that I didn't have that biohazard symbol on row B here. Sounds more complicated than it is, but it really makes sense. In this case, it is true. I would put it down here like this. I would hand it over to the red player. They would check it out. They would cross it out on their cheat sheet. Then again, they would shuffle those cards and those would be discarded. And this kind of concludes their turn. They are down to 0 cards, but they will still gather some intel. So in this case, I think they will go for those 2. And you get some information out of those draw. We will reveal 2 more cards. Again, we have an aging card. And again, everyone knows, hey, we can cross out agent number 9 on our cheat sheets. But again, all the players will do that. Last but not least, it's the white player this round. Again, they could also go for an uncover action. They are not going to because, yeah, they don't want to go for a Hail Mary. They can't really play a series of 3 cards, so they will also go over that. They will go for an inquiry action. And given the knowledge that we as a blue player have kind of gathered for the very first action, I think they're also going for a public interrogation for the red player again, and they kind of want to make sure, and asking them again, hey, is any of these 2 symbols on your row A? Keep in mind they decided to remain silent the last round, and again, this has given us something to work with. Again, that red player could now decide to say, I don't want to answer, but again, they would be losing another card. So in this case, I guess the risk is somewhat okay, and red says, yeah, that's one of these symbols is on my row A, which also means if we check our little cheat sheet here, the map symbol doesn't appear in row A. Of course, this was a stupid example, and maybe again the red player should have thought about this, but in this case again they didn't want to spend another card. So now it is clear for them that, I think at least for everyone, that this has to be the card that they have on top of this. So they're really down to 1, 2, or 3 cards. Everything else for the red player is currently impossible because they rightfully answered, yes, I have that symbol on the top row. This was already ruled out through, I think, a public card and the other cards as well. So this leaves 3 more cards to go. So with the next action also, someone could really say, hey, I really go for a Hail Mary here and will uncover the secret identity. So really, white played this pretty cleverly, and or I played this very poorly. Don't hold it against me. But anyway, this card has been discarded. Last thing to do is to draw 2 cards. They will certainly go for this card. This really helps them, and I think they will also go for this card in here. Let's reveal 2 more cards. Unfortunately, this time we don't see any aging cards, so we can't freely cross out, but you see those are coming. sooner or later, but that basically concludes the very first round of the game. So it's now back to us, and I think in this case we can now safely uncover vital intel. And again, we have to do that by playing 3 cards. The first card that we are playing has to have exactly one symbol, and that symbol has to be present on our secret identity card. So by doing this, you are giving away vital information. So all the other players know now that they can cross out all the symbols on their cheat sheets that doesn't have the map icon. So this is something they know, and I can't lie here. Then I have to play a card that has exactly 2 symbols, and guess what? We have that. One of these symbols also has to match the card on the first, a symbol on the first card, that is. So here it is, the map. Again, we already have given away that we have this symbol. And last but not least, we have to play a third card that has 3 symbols on it, and 2 of these symbols have to be present on the second card. And that was the main reason why I was so eager getting this card. So card 1 has 1 symbol, and it's 1 symbol from our thing. Then 2 with 2 symbols, 1 is crossing here, and these 2 are here. The order of these symbols doesn't really matter, just that the symbols are here, which means we have now successfully uncovered vital intels, which means this is our very first victory point of the game. So we'll put these cards in front of us or next to us, basically showing that we have 1 victory point. Again, we have given away some information, but during the next round we could in fact consider to go for that Hail Mary here and say maybe Agent Red is 11. I really have forgotten actually what it was, 11, 12 or 20. So we could win the game with our next round. It's really important that you can only ever do 1 uncover action per turn. So I couldn't go for the immediate win here right now. Still, because I was kind of successful, I get to take my, what was it? Inquiry action. And again, I could target the red player, for example, with openly asking for this question. Is any one of these symbols here, for example, on, I think it was row B, and I could target for the submarine because that's the only thing that is here on this card. The problem with that is I would give that information to the white player, who could then go down to a 50-50 shot, and I think that's not what I'm going to do. So instead, I could now really say, no, then I may want to, I don't know, work with the white player. But because I have a chance now winning the game with my next round, I could go for a private inquiry, and we'll play both of those cards again in front of the red player, asking them, hey, is any one of these 3 symbols on your row B? And again, they will have to take their card. Again, they could lie, but if they, not lie, they could remain silent, sorry for that, but they would lose their 2 cards here, and I think right now they don't want to do that. Of course, they want to prevent that I'm winning, but on the other hand, they also want to make some progress. So I think in this case, they will take their card. They will also check out their thing here, and now they have to give it back to me in a certain fashion, and they're handing me this deck of cards in this way. So I will take it. No one else really sees what it is because the top card is always face down. It's really the bottom card that decides if it's yes or a no. So I will take this card, you know, under the table behind my player screen, and I will have a look. Okay, it is face up, which means this is a no. So neither of these 3 symbols is on his B row, which is clearly telling me that I can rule out this one. So it's really down to a 50-50 shot. Unfortunately, really unfortunately, I can't do anything with that. In theory, I could now, before I take my next action, use the spying card to really make sure and hope, for example, that one of these 2 cards is in that pile there. Then I really would know for sure. But then on the other hand, I also know the white player would be first, and they could still go for 1 out of 3 shots, which wouldn't be bad either, because they know if I am successful, I would win. So I think they may have to take a chance here. Anyway, those 2 cards are being discarded now. I believe I'm down to 0 cards now, actually, because for the laughs I put in my secret identity card in here. So I'm down to 0. So I want some more cards. I definitely want This one, I have given the information here away anyway, so I think there is no point holding back. So I will take this card and maybe also this card here, giving me something to work with for the next round. We will reveal the next two cards. And ooh, I didn't think about this one. If this card is now showing, no, we are kind of lucky. It's the 7. The 7 we already knew for the red player that is not a case, but of course we can now for sure also cross it out for the white player here, respectively. Then it would move back to the red player. Of course, again, they would have the choice for an uncover action. Again, they could go for a Hail Mary. Again, they can't play the series of cards, or they can't uncover vital intel, for example. Then it would be the white player and so on, and then we would be more or less maybe really trying to do that. Of course, the white player could have done that, and they could also, before it is our turn, now have decided to play the spying card. And just for the laughs, let's do that. Before they make their accusation, they could have done that. So they see the 11, the 1, the 11, and the 2. And I'm not sure if let's check at our end. It does help them actually. It gives them some information. Again, they would have very similar cheat sheet here. This is ours here, of course, but they would now also get the same information. So they know it's no longer the 11. So for them, it would now also be the 12 or the 20. So the white player, I think, with a 50-50 shot, because otherwise they could be losing the game. They would simply ask the red player now for the accusation. Hey, are you Agent 12? They will look at it, and indeed they are Agent 12. So this is a victory point for the white player. They would have done that before it was our turn. So here they were extremely lucky. Of course, this information was only true for, or only valid now for the white player. If I wanted to know, I had to also spend my spying card here, obviously. The red player is not out of the game. They can simply still participate, and they are no longer bound to the requirement to play these cards, the series that is part of their cards. They still need the 3 cards. They still need to follow the same rules. So 1 icon on the first card, 2 on the second card, 3 on the third card. They all need to be aligned to each other, but they no longer need to be waiting for any of these symbols to appear. So it makes the game for them a little bit more, it's easier, let's put it like this. But it's also the case that both me and the white player have a victory point, but now we are basically clueless. We don't really have a lot of information about the white player, and everyone else is now building towards those maybe series of cards. I'm really remote from that, so taking this victory point away from me was definitely key for the white, and maybe even for the red player. But yeah, that's basically how you play Agent Who, which again is currently on Kickstarter. And yes, again, you will find a link to the campaign page, so go check it out. I really hope you enjoyed my little walkthrough here. Hopefully I was able to show you the majority of the intricacies of this game. There is a 2-player mode in this game, which works or seems to work pretty well. I haven't tried it, but I think you can easily play this from 2 to 5 player. I still think it shines with 3, 4, 5 players here, but again, give this 2-player variant a try, and I'm relatively certain it works quite well as well. And yeah, before I forget, huge shout out to all of my patrons and channel members out there. You guys are truly amazing. Can't tell you how much I appreciate all your support. So if you want to support my little channel, you will find a link to my page on Patreon. You can join me here directly on YouTube by clicking that little join button. There is a thanks button for a small or maybe not so small donation. Like and subscribe, leave a comment. This also greatly helps the channel, and I really appreciate all contributions there. And yeah, with that being said, I really hope you enjoyed my little walkthrough here. Hope to see you soon in one of my other videos, and until then, bye bye.